A Superior man who police say stabbed his ex-girlfriend is now charged with attempted murder. Dave Bolden made his first court appearance today. According to court documents, he showed up at his ex's apartment Wednesday afternoon to grab something of his. That's when the victim told authorities Bolden started stabbing her. Bolden left the scene and neighbors helped the victim, who had many deep cuts, call 911. Police eventually arrested Bolden at a nearby apartment, noting he appeared intoxicated. The victim says she doesn't know what would have prompted Bolden to stab her, but they had broken up about 2 weeks ago after a 6-month relationship. Bolden's bail was set at $1 million, and he'll be back in court next week.